Happy Friday, everybody. Today is August 7th. I am Friday Jones, and this is Friday Jones Uncensored. This is a show that I started in order for us to have a reparations mindset in all things that we do. Tonight's episode is going to be about Alameda in Russell City up in Northern California. They just came out with a reparations plan on June 30th. They presented in front of their board of supervisors. And so we're going to get into that tonight. This has been, first of all, it's been hot as heck here in Los Angeles. But this morning, if y'all were tuned in to KBLA, I want to shout out Dominique DePrima. I was on her Freedman Friday show. I talked about a lot of things. I talked about some legislation coming out of California. I talked about Ghana and the need for full transparency and truthful dialogue between all people when it comes to reparations and people being accountable. We talked about Hermit Dillon, and you guys know I have plenty of videos on Hermit Dillon and some of her anti-blackness in her position of power. We talked about a range of things. So if you did not check out that interview, I'm going to say check that interview out. And we are going to get into a quick reparations minute. This is just, I don't know if it's me being petty or if me just being like, ooh, 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 ooh. But we're going to get to it. So let me get my little clock up, and we'll get into a reparations minute. Okay, everybody. Okay. Baby. Kyrie Irving has entered the building. So we know he is an independent thinker. We need to be independent thinkers for a reparations mindset. That's yes, we do. And so what he posted, and I retweeted, and full disclosure, I've never had sports clients, but I'm sure somewhere in my little circle of friends and attorneys, I'm about 3 degrees of separation. I don't need to be trying to snag him as a client, but it's because he made this conversation on his X account, his Twitter account. The reparations conversation for black folk exposes a lot, huh? He posted that August 7th, earlier today, and he has 501,000 views, which means when he opens his mouth, people listen, people pay attention. So if he want to enter this reparations conversation, and shout out to Camila Moore, she shared this with me, and so I retweeted it because I'm like, yeah, let's have this conversation. It does expose a lot. And the other thing that he posted, which I just reposted this one, was descendants of slave owners are still profiting off of slavery to this day. Honey, Mitch McConnell, we haven't seen him, but he comes from a slave-owning family, okay? If you look at most of the legislators in this country that we have had thus far, over half of them have owned slaves. And they were the owning class. They were the landowners. They were the people making the laws. So shout out to Kyrie Irving because, honey, he is into the building and we are clocking it. So that is our reparations minute. I have got to, first of all, y'all know my brother and I, we be head to head on Fridays, but he's on every Friday. I'm on every other Friday, but I have to show him some love with Jazz is Dead. So for you jazz buffs out there, you got to check out Ali Shaheed Muhammad and Adrian Young at 88.1 FM from 6 to 8 p.m. They are on right now. So Friday evenings, you're getting off of work, you need to come down, you need to learn a little music history. This is the show that you want to tune into. And here's look at their little video. Let's watch it. All right, we're not gonna say it again. I have to share this little thing. You guys have to indulge me for one quick minute. So, this is a throwback photo. This look at a young me. This is me and my brother. This was actually the listening party for Midnight Marauders. Everybody was in the building that night. But his birthday is coming up, so shout out Ali Shaheed Muhammad. Happy birthday to you. I love you so much, dear brother. We got memories literally that go back my whole life. So I just wanted to share. I found this little throwback picture, and I just wanted to share with you all tonight. So happy birthday, brother. Oh, let's take it down. This is why shows need producers. All right, so without further ado, we are going to get into what's happening with the Alameda County. Now, this came out in the news. I feel like it was like last week, maybe 2 weeks ago. I don't know. But I wanted to make sure that we talked about it. If something is in the headlines, I'm going to try and pull it. I'm going to just try and go through it because I think it's important for us to be sharing information when it comes to reparations. There are all kinds of ideas. We have to have a place where we can exchange ideas. And because I've gone through, enough of these, there's sort of this library, I guess, that I'm building unintentionally, but there's this library that I'm building on the different commissions and what they are doing, and on the legal side, what is happening to them. We know Hermit Delon is not a friend of ours. She has a new vision for civil rights that really does not include the American freedmen people. And so let's hop into it. Let's go through their report. I'm pulling it up on the screen here. And we're gonna get into it. And tonight is gonna be slow paced. I mean, this is like informative, so I'm not feeling one way or the other about this. And so the website, can I share the website? I think I could drop this into the chat maybe for folks that, I don't know if you're gonna get it though on the I don't know if you're gonna get it. I can copy it and put it in to the comments. I don't know if YouTube allows that, but I'm gonna do that and we're gonna see what happens. I'm just hitting the return button, and if y'all can see it and grab it. I also put it in underneath the video on YouTube. I put the link to the task force website, but if you want to read this report that we're going through, you can go ahead and you can do that tonight. So anyway, here's the action report. The gentleman that I showed in the beginning, this report is actually dedicated to him, and we'll show that, and he passed away. Death does happen in real time. It happened during, I think, the California commission. It happened during this Alameda commission. Not a commissioner on the LA commission, but their spouse passed away, and so they had to step down. So like life is happening in real time when we go through these commissions, and so it is a labor of love and an act of sacrifice. And so I do want to just spend a quick second, acknowledging him. And I went through this. I like seeing that they did an ancestral acknowledgement. I used to have to kind of go back and forth because we did land acknowledgement. Los Angeles is on Tongva land. And we always, when we held meetings, we did that land acknowledgement, but I pushed the envelope. We need to also acknowledge, this nation and the history when it comes to enslaved folks and American freedmen and emancipation. So I actually, when I was going through this earlier today, I like the fact that they had an ancestral acknowledgement because it kind of puts things front and center. And so this is the good brother here. This report they dedicated to Jesse Clyde Burleson, and so I wanted to make sure that I also acknowledged him tonight. This is his words. He says, we have to think about not only what we didn't have and don't have, but what about future generations? What about our children? What about our grandchildren? How are we going to set them up so that they don't grow up and be at our age in the same situation or even worse than how we have it right now and how we grew up? And so we want to recognize Brother Jesse Clyde Burleson, who did pass away on March 6th of this year, going through his commission process there in Alameda. And I thought I'm on the website because I wanted to share it. I was about to say, hold on one second, you guys. Because I should have, yeah, a document that I highlighted. I'm like, why am I not seeing my highlights? This is a little tough for me, but here, I have it right here. Let's drop it, and then we'll go back to the top. Sorry. So we recognized him. This thing is 170 pages. There is no way for us to get through this, but this report was presented to the Board of Supervisors in Alameda County and their Board of Supervisors. And for this commission, the purpose of this report is to summarize their origins and objectives, to provide background on Oakland and Alameda County context pertinent to the purposes of this report and associated recommendations, and to document the Commission's recommendations to the Board of Supervisors with supporting evidence and justification. And this was going, again, before the Board of Supervisors just last week, no, July, a month ago, on June 30th, they presented this and they wanted to commence their recommendations in September. I will have to do a follow-up to see what happened. I don't know what happened, but I do know that this made the news, and that's why I'm trying to cover it here tonight. And so they have a vision. We have an opportunity, an obligation to free us all from the burdens of inequity. The path to do so is by boldly investing in those who have been left behind. It is rare in public policy to find something that is unequivocally the right thing to do and the smart thing to do. Reparations and targeted equity investments are that rare solution. Alameda County should seize it for the sake of its Black community and for prosperity and well-being of the entire country. That's something I say often. Investment in American freedmen would turn this country around. There would be new businesses. There would be people who have had ideas that were underfunded, that they couldn't get capital. It would turn things around in a way where we would see enterprise in the United States, not big corporations, that go abroad and everything just to, bring shareholders a bottom line. And this is the kind of thought that we have to have around this. In 2023, the Alameda County Board of Supervisors established an ad hoc committee and reparations commission to fulfill one of the pledges of their resolution number R-2020-412, which sought the support of community reparations for African Americans. The Alameda County Reparations Commission scope is to create a draft action plan based on its research that will make significant and lasting progress towards repairing public and private systematic discrimination. One of the things that I have to point out, of course, is Hermit Tilan, who the Department of Justice joined Evanston's lawsuit about 14th Amendment rights violations in the plan that Evanston has, which is the $25,000 voucher plan. It's interesting for me to see. I feel like they are aware that their report has to be able to, whatever policies they implement, stand up to strict scrutiny. They have what you have to do to be a beneficiary, and we'll walk through that in a minute. But District 4 Commissioner Alan Dones affirmed reparations is not simply a moral and ethical imperative, but an engine of economic prosperity for all of Alameda County. Whether educational support, home ownership support, or direct financial assistance, reparations will have a positive impact not only on African American families, but Alameda County as a whole. Increased prosperity in the African American community will create a cascade effect. As families are lifted out of poverty, pressure on Alameda's social services will decrease. As the pressure decreases, families with more disposable income and greater economic stability will patronize Alameda businesses or start businesses on their own, enriching Alameda residents of all races and increasing the county's tax base. By closing opportunity gaps and repairing historical harms, the county can reduce costs. For example, reducing poverty and joblessness is empirically linked to lower crime and welfare dependency. In short, investments in equity and reparations will pay dividends to taxpayers through lower public expenditures and stronger economy, in addition to righting historical wrongs. And that was from, again, Commissioner Alan E. Jones from District 4. In this report, they did cite things that we are familiar with: the Civil Liberties Act of 1988, which was an example of reparative action for those harmed by structural, institutional, and social discrimination. It was the apology by the U.S. government for wrongly interning Japanese Americans during World War II. Another is the Indian Claims Commission, a federal agency from 1946 to 1978, and ruled on cases brought against the United States by any tribe, band, or other identifiable group of American Indians residing within the territorial limits of the United States or Alaska. That is similar to that executive order that President Trump wrote and then turned around and rescinded, but it is similar to that Indian Claims Commission. More recently, California's Bill 3121, which of course established the California Task Force to study and develop reparations proposals back in 2020. So here we have the city of Hayward gave a formal apology in 2021 for its role in destroying Russell City. Russell City was an unincorporated community in Alameda County that was a haven for African American and Latino families who had difficulty buying properties in other parts of the Bay Area due to racist real estate policies. I do not have that book. I don't have a commercial break either, but I think it's called like The Color of Law. Rothstein, I believe, is the author. That everything that is in that Rothstein book, The Color of Law, was happening up here in Northern California, in Alameda County, in San Francisco, up in the Bay Area. So if you're not familiar with what happened there, it was a lot. And that Rothstein book really documents what was happening up in Northern California during that time. Okay. They go through quite a bit of American history, but I want to just focus on the things that I highlighted for you guys tonight. So they have criteria. So this is not an everybody event. I kind of feel like this is a harm-based model based on the criteria. But for commissioners, they wanted folks who represented media in the African American community, people who are displaced through gentrification. They wanted people with expertise in private equity. I'm not mad at them, in venture capital and fundraising. I reached out to a Silicon Valley venture capitalist that built some of these Google cities because I wanted to understand how Google worked in partnership with community to make cities that did not just take over where they were building their campuses. So whoever pegged that was very smart. They wanted folks 55 and older. Interesting for the age, but someone who was incarcerated, the brother who passed away, that we recognized he was incarcerated, so he was able to bring that experience and voice. Someone who was discriminated in the workplace. And so these are the things, this is how they figured out who their commissioners were going to be, and then these were the commissioners. I don't know any of these people, but it seems like they were very thoughtful in how they put this commission together and all these different people who wound up being commissioners, okay? Where's my green? I should have another green section. They recognize all the different organizers and partners who helped the commission. Interesting, some of these names. I'll let you guys read them. I'm not going to get into that. And like I said, this thing is 170 pages. And so we're going to go through, they have basically an overview, and we're going to try and get through the overview, this recommendations at a glance. And so the commissioners categorized 43 recommendations into 12 recommendation areas. A lot of the commissions that are being formed in California really kind of did follow the different areas that the state focused on. And so we'll go through all of those areas. They broke the 43 recommendations and 12 recommendation areas into a priority timeline. Again, they were hoping after the June 30th meeting to start implementing some of this stuff in September of this year. And so they had immediate priorities where recommendations were to begin within 1 year, near-term priorities, which would start in year 1 to 3, and then extended priorities that they would roll out in years 3 to 5. These are all considered long-term priorities, and within their 1 year, they wanted to immediately address housing, economic justice, county reparations administration, and physical and mental health. During their near term, their 1 to 3, they wanted to center Black youth, repairing education, criminal justice, institutional accountability, and preserving Black culture and heritage. We're in a transition now where, in my opinion, our culture and our heritage is intentionally being destroyed. Even the handling of the Civil Rights Department, that is what American freedmen built. We created a civil rights department, and in the Constitution, the civil rights the civil rights amendments, that is work that we did. And now I said it earlier, I'll say it again, I said it on Dominique's show, but it's being co-opted right now. It's being re-engineered to be part of the beast system. It's not what we created, it's being bastardized. In years 3 to 5, they want to function and work on, and this is Alameda County again, civic power and representation, data restoration, which we'll see that's going to become important in our call to action with the EEOC, and reparative environmental investments. Okay, and so below they have these frameworks for repair, and they lean into the United Nations. Restitution, meaning returning resources and property. Compensation is money. I am not one of those people that say, well, we can do things and we don't need the money. No, the wealth gap is real. And not only that, America's legal system, you sue people for money. Nobody goes to court, for something other than money. That's not how we've created this society to work. So why we participants in this society and the builders of this country as we know it should accept something less, I don't get it. That doesn't make any sense whatsoever to me. But anyway, rehabilitation, which is tangible repair through medical, social healing, different programs, satisfaction, truth-telling, accountability, public apologies. And I think satisfaction, we have to understand when you're doing reparations work, satisfaction can change, because if we get something that doesn't have this fifth element of a guarantee of non-repetition, you can have beneficiaries going back to being dissatisfied like that. And, this framework we follow, but I am reminded by the fact that this framework did not exist when the Luxembourg Agreement was drafted for Holocaust reparations. And so this is a nice foundation, but it is not by any stretch of the imagination the only way to do reparations, okay? We have to, again, we're creating a reparations mindset, and when we're creating a reparations mindset, we have got to be consistent in how we understand and process information. We cannot just do what has only been done. Again, we are the creators. We create. So we have to create standards that are going to work for us, and they're going to work for the next 7 generations. Okay? All right. Let's keep scrolling. They got into their budget and where they could kind of house different things, good information to have, but I want to get into the crux of this thing. So their immediate priorities, again, housing justice. They want, I think, 81% affordable housing. They are saying that is the type of repair that is one of the most significant, and that's where they start. And so with their housing justice program, for them being the cornerstone of reparations, by advancing an integrated approach that includes down payment assistance, right to return program for Black residents impacted by redlining and displacement. So as we know, California real estate makes no sense. A lot of these houses were built in like 1940, and these houses being built in 1940, they don't have no insulation, they don't have any air conditioning. They have great structural bones, many built of beautiful hard red woods, and so they are long standing. But people cannot afford these old 1940s houses. They can't afford to come back and do repairs in a meaningful way. And so, you know, I am with them in having folks being able to return to Russell City if they were pushed out, or based on the fact that they were pushed out. They want direct compensation for unjust property takings, and they want racial equity conditions in county housing subsidies and anti-displacement zoning protections. So they're going to make future protections so this does not repeat again. Okay. To economic justice, the Bay Area feels gentrified and the richness of Black culture has left it. As a result, this community survey responded is saying that their children don't get to see themselves in their teachers and small businesses and homeowners and church members and classmates. The landscape and the population has changed so much that people don't see themselves anymore. 51% of county entities affected economic opportunity for community members. Alameda should advance comprehensive economic justice strategies that transforms public funds into reparative investment, prioritizing and supporting Black-owned businesses, neighborhood commercial corridors, and expanded access to home ownership and economic opportunity. This approach must directly target the racial wealth gap by building pathways to asset ownership. This is a piece of the City of LA's commission work that I worked on with the venture capitalists to see specifically how we could create these corridors. How can we make these business centers in a way that makes sense? And so they're thinking along the same lines with economic justice, again, transforming county public funds into harm for reparations investment. So they're creating a funding mechanism, and then they want to support Black businesses and neighborhood commercial corridors. One of the most famous corridors here in Los Angeles is Central Avenue that runs north and south of the city. That was a corridor that LAPD harassed out of business. It's not gentrified per se anymore, but it is definitely not Black owned anymore. UCLA used to be sort of over that way. UCLA is now on the west side. And so the Black businesses in the city of Los Angeles have definitely taken some hits. So they want to address the racial wealth gap, again, giving rights of return to folks to go back to Russell City so that they can own homes and build out these corridors. 3, county reparations administration. So they want to build a body, a governmental body, to do this work. So Alameda County should establish a permanent department or office for reparations. Y'all know me. I'm all for bringing back a Freedman office. I think you have to do all things through our Freedman lens. I understand there are specific families in Russell County who were displaced due to racism and eminent domain and the use of eminent domain. It's important that we have government bodies that can stand up to a freaking Hermit Delon and her new vision for civil rights. Anyway, but they want it fully staffed, resource design, implementation. This is the department that's going to oversee all programs and policies. This department should be anchored by a dedicated reparations fund with sustained public financing to ensure long-term accountability and effectiveness. Okay, establishing an office and establishing a fund. I just want to scroll up real quick because they gave us, this is their budget appropriations for the 2023 and 2024 year. Look how much they spend on public assistance. This is their highest line item. Okay, public assistance is their highest line item. $999 million, almost $1 billion they're spending on public assistance. And they could just take a significant piece of that and invest it. The only other thing that's higher, of course, public protection means police and sheriff. And so these are the two pieces that I think would really help in terms of where's the money going to come from. We see it. It's like the over policing, and then after the over policing, people need public service. You break up our families, you break up our homes, there are no jobs. That's what your budget is going to look like. Physical and mental health. I like that they're dealing with mental health as a year one priority, because when you don't have stability for your whole life, for your childhood, then you get into adulthood and you don't have a 20 year framework of stability, you statistically need 20 years of stability in order to thrive. You need 20 years of stability in order to thrive. I like that they want people to get their mind right. You know, people who are prayerful, who meditate, who go into their mind, who make sure that their minds are strong, people who fast. I know those sound like simple things, but I like that they are prioritizing physical and mental health, because until you address those things, like until people focus on their selves, what part of the self is broken, they can't do the other things. So I like that for reparations, they're making this a priority. 58% of county entities affected community members' emotional well-being, and 34% county entities affected community members' physical health. So when the Russell City was basically dismantled, it tore people apart. It caused physical trauma in their bodies, and so they are looking to repair that. I like this a lot. And then so now we're moving into priority terms 1 to 3, which is their centering of black youth. A community survey respondent said, "I fear that our children's identity may suffer from a loss of culture," and we know that happens. Like, we speak English now. We whatever was before, we don't know. That's been stripped from our. It may be in our DNA. It may be in our DNA memory, but it's not part of our memory, right? Foster care entry rates for African American children in Alameda County is 4.6 cases per 1,000 compared to 1 case per 1,000 for children in the general population. So our families in Alameda County are being destroyed at a higher rate, with children being taken out of their homes. And as we saw from their budget, with the amount that they're spending basically on welfare type programs, these people are not doing well. They're not doing well up there in Alameda County, okay? Reparative education, they want to start with the school system. Educating their young people is the key, starting with that and then following up with the educators and the community itself. 71.5% better education programs is one of the most needed types of repair or repayment. There should be elimination of barriers to education and reparative education and workforce development programs for Black residents. If anybody knows folks up in Alameda County, a Coalition for a Just and Equitable California during the state hearings wrote some really beautiful education policy. The National Assembly from American Slavery Descendants also wrote some really beautiful policy that ties into federal funding, and based on the federal funding, programs that could be specifically for American freedmen children. So if there are folks up there that know anybody on that commission, I'm happy to share that information, or they can reach out to a Coalition for a Just and Equitable California or the National Assembly of American Slavery Descendants, so that we can try and make some of the ideas available. And then you take it, up there in Alameda County. I believe that people should self-govern their reparations. We're happy to share the information. That's our job, to kind of give educational tools. But there's very specific educational things that can be done and demanded for that initiative. The next thing they wanted to work on was reparative criminal justice. And we saw it again in the budget. The only other thing that was higher than the welfare programs was the policing. And then we have a community survey respondent who says that the police department and housing authority have caused the most harm in my family's experience. The police have never taken responsibility for the way they profile and harass young black men in my family. My nephew was stopped dozens of times for no reason, and nobody ever apologized or admitted it was wrong. I'll go one step further. I bet you nobody was ever fired for racial profiling. Okay, 68% of the community members or their family members experience unfair treatment by police, sheriffs, or other law enforcement. So they want reparative criminal justice, community safety, a transformation initiative. They want to reduce bias policing in Alameda County, a reparative reentry and economic restoration program for formerly incarcerated, wrongful conviction and over incarceration reparations fund. That is going to be necessary. California is a sanctuary city. I'm sorry, a sanctuary state. And because we are a sanctuary state, we see a lot of legal services being offered to undocumented people to deal with whatever they're going through, whether they need medical insurance, whether they're dealing with housing issues, whether there's some sort of discrimination issue. They have legal funds available. We need the same legal funds. And so I like that they have this wrongful conviction and over incarceration reparations fund because it's needed. They want to disrupt the repair school to prison pipeline and educational restoration, and they want to create a county restitution fund for individuals harmed for wrongful convictions, create a restitution fund for compensation in jail, prison labor. They want to establish, see, they're going to get their money back for all that free work they were doing. They want to establish an independent justice ombudsperson and wrongful convictions review office. And then they want a reparations aligned community violence intervention network, which to me sounds like they low-key want to police themselves. They don't want to be bothered with this B system and with this watcher system. They want to do it themselves. And so this is, I like seeing this overview right here. It sounds like they have really thought about that. And probably, again, most likely from the brother who passed away, who was a commissioner. They want institutional accountability. Another community survey respondent said in their family's experience, the systems that have caused the most harm or failed to take responsibility are large government and financial institutions. When there is not an individual person to point a finger at, this is something that in the city of LA, we kind of recognize, because with Bruce's Beach, and the reason that Bruce's Beach was able to move in the way that it was in terms of redress is because there was press at a city council hearing where basically one of the city council members, was like, I don't want to live with those Negroes, or, like whatever we have to do to not be by the Negroes. Like, it was said very overtly. And so that was the smoking gun because the legislators said it. There are a lot of government bureaucracies where laws are done intentionally because of racism, and there's not going to be that kind of needle in a haystack. There's not going to be an article of coverage of a city council meeting where it's like down with the Negroes. There is veiled language. There are things that are said. There are excuses that are used, which are dog whistles for racism. And so it's important for any reparations policy to kind of have this idea of institutional accountability. So they want a permanent hosting of a county reparations report. This helps with that element 5 of reparations, that 5th pillar of non-repetition. They want to enlist counties and cities to implement these recommendations. They want a formal harms report to be established with a harms department. They already have a reparations department. The reparations department should be responsible for issuing the harms report. And then they want to require equity reports for every county department and agency. That's a report that LA did. They hired a USC. I still haven't seen that report. I heard about the report from the person at USC doing the research, and I've been trying to get my hands on it for the past couple of years. I have not been able to, so I'm glad that's something that they asked for. Um, the next thing is they want preservation of Black culture and heritage. You know, so much of our history has just been obliterated. It's just been obliterated, and it's important for our children, our next generation, to have this awareness so that when they see, just like we have microaggressions in the workplace, right? When it comes to racism, we need our next generation to understand when there's a repeat cycle. Because they're these non-creative people, they don't create new stuff. They just take the old stuff and dress it up, maybe change the words around, but they have the same playbook. They are not original people. And so we need our children to understand, and the only way they're going to do that is by having a base of understanding for our culture and our heritage. And some of the things that they want is preservation of historical memory, spaces, institutions, economic districts, in order to safeguard cultural sovereignty. They want archives and heritage preservation. They want reparative investment in Black arts and music. Maybe if we get some investment in Black arts and music, we'll get something better than a sexy red. They want to build an enduring narrative reparations program for Black communities. And I say that only to say maybe we can, some people like sexy red, but maybe we could have a Queen Latifah, you know, some more conscious rap, if you will, that's not, it's not so one-sided, right? When we create a plethora, you know, we have a smorgasbord, we have options. And so I would love to see that investment in Black arts and music. And then for their longer haul, the 3 to 5 year haul, they want civic power and representation. A community survey respondent said, first, develop integrity. Second, they need to actually care. And third, not only listen, but they need to hear. Alameda County should establish sustainable Black civic power and representation initiative that advances reparative governance by strengthening government accountability, fostering intergovernmental coordination, clarifying legal authority, and enabling institutional power sharing to ensure the effective implementation of reparations. Sustainable Black civic power, the framing aligns with reparative governance, civic inclusion, and institutional power sharing, government accountability, intergovernmental coordination. I've got to read the detail for this section. I'm curious to know what that's about. I'm curious to know how they want to implement that. I know I had some ideas with the city of LA's, process. I'm going to read that specifically. Data integrity. Okay, we're at 15 more minutes to go, so I want to breeze through these so we can kind of get to the EEOC. Data integrity and data transparency are very important. We are living in a presidential administration that wants to start not collecting race. And if the EEOC is able to get away with not collecting racial data reports annually from businesses, then they're going to be like, the census doesn't need to happen. The census won't need to happen because they won't need to document, the race of the Americans. Everyone will just be American, and we know that that's a bunch of nonsense. We already have AI in the job marketplace that based on your name and zip code, they already know who you are. And they say no. You don't even get to interview because the bias is built into the AI and you're out of here. So this data integrity and data transparency, documentation of harms, public accountability is very, very important. I'm glad to see that they are pushing for that. Reparative environmental investments. There needs to be reparations for environmental racism, health disparities, and the housing crisis. If you live in California, everything was drilled, fracked, you name it. if you name it, it's been done. And because of that, we have to make sure when it comes to reparations, there's always some sort of element of, what do you call that? Of environmental repair, because the things that have been going on in Los Angeles have just been not just Los Angeles, but California at large. This is a place where mining has happened, gas has been drilled for. They redid the water canals, so that there could be water in different parts of the state, because largely a desert. I think before they redirected the water, California might have been an island, but now it's not. It's all connected land. The water has been rerouted, and so there have been a lot of environmental harms, particularly placed where black folks in this state live. Now everyone's up in arms because of the data centers, but data centers were not the original arbiters of environmental harm. The environmental harms were put into black communities. So this last thing I want to get into, because we're down now to the last 12 minutes, I want to get into the EEOC, and let me see if I can make this bigger. So right now what's happening at the EEOC, and that's the Equal Employment Opportunity Commission. That is the commission that if you have discrimination at the workplace, it's a federal crime, it's a violation of federal law. This is the division that you would go to seek redress from your employer, or if you had disability issues, a federal violation. You go to this department to hear essentially your case and make a decision about your employer. And what they want to do, they claim they preliminarily determined that the reports are inconsistent. This collection of racial data is inconsistent with equal employment opportunity law and potentially unconstitutional. The thing is, if they really thought it was unconstitutional, the EEOC would be charging, there would be a lawsuit. So there's not a lawsuit. They just want to do a public hearing. And if there's not enough public pushback, then they're just going to change their own rules and say, we don't have to do this anymore. That is how agencies work. Agencies don't have to go through Congress. Congress has to enable the agency, and then they have to create rules of operation for the agency, for the federal agency. But they could change the rules at any time, and this is what they're trying to do. But when they change the rules, they have to have a public hearing. The public hearing is going to be next week, I believe on August 11th, okay? And they are saying that their finding is that data collected is not narrowly tailored. So now this narrowly tailored is the new thing when it comes to race. We heard Harmeet Dillon use this language with Evanston's reparations housing voucher program was not narrowly tailored enough. So they're trying to say that the existing collection of data somehow doesn't meet strict scrutiny laws, but they're not challenging it in a court of law. This is game playing, people. And again, why are we here? We are here to create what? A reparations mindset. You got to know when the B system is trying to game you, and they're trying to game us here right now. Okay? It further finds that data collection is not narrowly tailored, is unnecessary to enforce anti-discrimination laws, and at a minimum, that any marginal benefits are outweighed by substantial burdens imposed on both employers who must submit these reports annually, regardless of any specific allegations or indication of potential violation of statutes the EEOC enforces, as well as the commission. All the commission does is file these reports. All these employers have to do is tick a box, or have their employees tick a box so that they can turn in these reports. These reports, if you've ever done a federal government, like small business survey, that's the essence of what these are. These are not that time consuming. They're not that hard to complete and fill out. This is them trying to do the okie doke, okay? And they're sticking it into the Pregnant Workers Fairness Act in the interest of efficiency, meaning if they can just change the rules and nobody's paying attention, but the Negroes are paying attention. So what needs to happen And the hearing is on August 11th. Okay, we've if you haven't submitted in order to be a speaker, we've already missed the deadline. The deadline is today, so you got to put in a written request by the end of today, and today is almost over. And so you can't try to speak in person, but what you can do up until the hearing is submit a comment. And so this is where I need folks to mobilize. I don't have too many bells and whistles. Let me see if I can find a sound effect or something to go in here, because this is important. Okay, so I'm going to hit the gong. We need you all to understand that this is important. So you can just do an email, well, not an email. You can do a fax, or you can go through the portal. You have to include the regulatory information number. That is how they identify where your comment is to go. So the RIN number is 3046-AB37, and you can go to the portal, which is in this video. I put it there, but it's www.regulations.gov, and then you follow the instructions, but please make sure you have that RIN number. Again, it's 3046-AB37. You can also fax to 202-663-4114, and your comment can only be 6 pages or less. So if you're going to use a fax machine, a lot of us e-fax now, go ahead and do your e-fax, but do not send something that's longer than 6 pages. They don't want that. I'm encouraging folks to please make sure, I'll leave this up on the screen. Let me see if I can even get a little larger. No, that's as large as I can get it. But I encourage you all, this is our call to action for this week, okay? We are creating a reparations mindset. That is why I started this show, Friday Jones Uncensored, so that we can always know what is happening in the reparations space, what lawsuits are coming our way, what good things, legislation, policy is happening, so that we can blueprint it in other municipalities and counties. The ultimate goal is to have federal redress for American freedmen. And so I know tonight's show, wasn't as juicy as some of my other shows, but again, we're sharing information. This is Alameda County. They have some really, really good ideas. I encourage you all to read the reports. I encourage you to support their efforts. We know that this is going to require a battle with our United States government, who has Hermeet Dillon as the Assistant Attorney General, who is fighting tooth and nail to be anti-Black and to be part of the B system. But we know the pendulum swings 2 ways, not always their way. So let's stay with our reparations mindset. Let's stay motivated. I hope you all have enjoyed this information. If you didn't see my last video was for the state of Illinois. We went through their survey. They don't have a lot of American freedmen responding to their survey. So check out my last episode so that you can participate in that. If you are in the state of Illinois, and if you have family and friends that live in Illinois, please make sure you send that information to them. You can follow me on social media at I am Friday Jones on all social media. I need to figure out how to get this in a box. There we go. I'm Friday Jones on all social media, and if you're following me, Instagram, Facebook, X, Orion, YouTube, check me out. I want to make sure that I'm keeping up with people. Like I said earlier today, don't be in my DMs with weird stuff. Be in my DMs about this work and reparations. I do speaking engagements. I like sharing the knowledge that I have, so keep the DMs about those things, and I would appreciate that so very much. Until 2 weeks from now, I'm going to run back. Over the next 2 weeks, I'm going to run back this show, so if you missed it, share. If you like it, hit the replay. Make sure you follow. Make sure you subscribe. I'm going to get some short videos out from my last show and from this show, so that people can make sure that they're staying informed. I enjoy bringing you all this information. Thank you so much. Peace and reparations. Until next time.